see everyone in the chat room. Just a quick before we get started, just a quick sound check. Make sure everybody can hear me and that we're good to go. So as always, I see a lot of regulars here. Mr. Cole's here. Robert, thanks for joining. Stefan, Doug from Oakland. Hey, Doug, you're right down the street from me. Sort of. Excellent. A lot of the same. Mikhail, thank you for joining. Ulrich, thank you for coming from Switzerland. Awesome. Michael, Scott, sweet. Okay. So I had a little bait and switch today. I'm sorry, not really. So I sent out an email, saying that Isaiah was going to be here today, and unfortunately, he had a little emergency come up, and he's not going to be able to join us today. So that's sad, but it's okay. Because hey, I could talk for hours about RapidWeaver. So what I thought we would do today is we would go ahead and chat about some some common things. There's been some interesting questions lately. Some of it's related to Stacks 4, and I think that we could definitely talk about some of those kind of things that people are not seeing, or the differences between the Stacks 3 and Stacks 4. We could talk about some of that, because Isaiah will be back next week, but I really want to dive into some other stuff with him and maybe get to know him a little bit better for you guys, and kind of do an interview, get behind the scenes, get to know Isaiah a little bit more. Obviously, we'll do a little bit of Stacks 4 stuff next week, but there's only so much you can cram in an hour, right? So figure we can get over some of the really kind of the beginner stuff. I'll probably jump on the forum, maybe look at some questions. There was another interesting one on the Weaver Space community yesterday that I'll probably go over as well, some really kind of basic stuff. And if you have anything that you want to talk about today, throw it in the chat room, and it is all about you guys. I am here. We're just going to do a grab bag of various stuff. I see, how do we use Font Awesome 5 inside Stacks 4? That is a fantastic question, actually, and probably one that actually maybe even deserves an entire live stream on. I will answer your question today, Rian, and I will definitely add it to the calendar. Look, hey, I got this fancy new calendar here. I've never used one of these desk calendars before ever in my entire life. Just bought one, and I'm going to use it to plan out live streams so I can be a little bit more proactive. So that will be one I add to the calendar, so that we go ahead and talk all about Font Awesome 5, how it's different than Font Awesome 4. That can easily fill an hour. Like, Font Awesome is really cool. And a little tidbit, Foundation 2 comes with a Font Awesome 5 Pro license. Boom! Okay. I don't want to tease you too much about Foundation 2. But it is coming. Stacks exist. If you join my Friday Hangouts, I may be doing a little sneak peek. Maybe this Friday, actually. I will be joining the Hangouts. I haven't been able to because there's some family vacations, but this Friday, I'll definitely be on the Hangout. And maybe I can give you a little preview of what I've been cooking up. I've been working on the new grids and the new columns, and that is a very foundational part of Foundation. And so how to use all those is going to be really, really good. So maybe you can get a sneak peek this Friday if you join the Hangout. So anyway, thank you, Gunter. Wished me a happy birthday. I had a great time this weekend. We went out a couple hours away, out kind of the foothills of the mountains. Went river rafting, and my back's still a little bit sore, actually. We were on the river for like 5 hours, and it was a lot of fun though. So Jody had a couple really great questions, and if she wants to join me, Commander Joy, I sent you a Zoom link if you feel up to joining me. Else, I'll just answer chats in the chat box. So, okay, without further ado, I think first off, I'm actually gonna start off and show you a question from the Weaver Space community that I had. Let me go ahead and get my desktop shared really quick. And we go live like that. Woo. I love that little slide effect. Very cool. Okay. My camera looks a little blurry for some reason. Autofocus. Hold on. Let me see if I can fix my autofocus issues here. Webcam Studios wasn't working. There we go. Okay. Okay, so we had actually, let's bring up the question. Okay, let's do this. I had a challenging morning today. So I had an interesting okay, let's go to here it is. It was from Gino. Gino, if you're here, thanks for posting this. It was a great and Jody, I sent you a private message on Weaver Space with the Zoom link. So what I've done here, or what this question is, so thanks Gino for posting this. He wants to do, he wants a banner image, and then he wants text on top of it, right? And a lot of users chimed in with some really great solutions. And there's a lot of ways to skin this cat, right? He wants an image, a banner on the top of his website with over like a black overlay on top, and then some text in the middle, like right in the middle of it. Pretty basic thing that we see on a lot of websites, right? And there are so many ways that we could do this. Okay. A lot of people suggested something like sections. Totally possible. Can totally do it in sections. Sections can do so much, right? Okay. We could do it with impact. Impact can totally do that as well, right? I mean, that's kind of Impact's bread and butter, to be honest. Like the hero headers, that is what Impact is for. And you can do a lot of fancy stuff. But let's say you didn't want a lot of the fancy stuff. You really wanted your web page to be as slim as possible, as as fast as possible, right? Because less stacks on the page means faster web pages, right? Even if it's just a little bit, even a little 1K here, 1K there, right? Makes our web pages faster. So, someone suggested filters. Thank you, Guy, for suggesting filters. That is one of my new ones. And Jody's joining us really quick. She joined my Zoom link. What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna share my desktop for her so she can actually see what I'm doing as well. Give me 1 second so Jody can chime in on us in a little bit. Okay. I'll bring you into the call in a little bit, Jody. Right now, let me just finish this demo, and then we'll bring you in. But hopefully, you can now see my screen so that you don't have to watch YouTube and Zoom all at the same time. So, okay. So filters, another great thing, right? I mean, filters supports this. You can do all kinds of crazy effects on the image as well. But again, that's extra stack. What if you don't need all those extra features, right? And so if you looked at my solution, it's really, really simple. It uses only default foundation stacks. And why is that cool? Because if you use just the default stacks, like those are going to be crazy minimal. Like they have zero CSS, zero JavaScript, on them. They are purely just HTML because everything else is included in the theme, right? In the foundation theme. So a lot of bang for a buck when we learn to use just what we need. We talked a lot about this on the Hangout quite a few weeks ago, months ago probably, where, let's say, for example, headers, right? This is really important because a lot of people, there are some really great header stacks out there. Tav from Big White Duck, he has things like Header Pro, and there's a bunch of other fancy, Letterpress is one of mine, right? And they have a lot of really fancy header features. And what people do is the advanced users tend to think, oh, I have Header Pro. I'm going to use that for every single header that I have. Well, that's not really smart. Because really, like if you don't need those advanced features, you shouldn't be using that stack. So it's really, really important if we learn to start with the basic stacks first. If you can accomplish what you can do with the basic stacks, then you're golden. Because that will, there's a lot of talk, especially with Stacks 4, with, performance and edit mode performance and making not only our websites faster, but also just using RapidWeaver, right? Making that actually more performant. So if we use just a plain simple header stack, instead of something like Header Pro, right? Again, Header Pro is awesome. And when you need the features that it gives you, use them. But if you just need a header, use a header, right? Don't use Header Pro if you don't need like its badges feature or, you know, some of the other advanced features that Header Pro brings, right? Don't use Header Pro for everything. And I'm not picking on Header Pro. That's just a perfect example because I've been to so many projects that, you know, I see Header Pro, Header Pro, Header Pro, Header Pro, Header Pro. And all they're doing is having an H3 tag with the default styles. If that's all you need, don't bring in Header Pro because it's going to slow down, you know, Rapweaver edit mode, because you got to think Header Pro, for all those settings that it has, there's a lot of settings. And every time you change one of those settings, Stacks has to recompile that, not only in edit mode, but also in preview. Right? So very important. I kind of really got off on this tangent. I wasn't planning on going off on this tangent, but really important. Learn how to use the default stacks for what they're supposed to be used for, and then augment that with these more pro stacks, such as Header Pro or Sections Pro or Impact or filters or all this other stuff, right? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you how I taught Gino to build this out using just the foundation stacks. Let me share my desktop again. Okay. Oops. There we go. Okay. Okay. So here I am. I am in a blank project file. I just had site styles on the page. Obviously, this is using foundation. So how are we going to do this? First off, we want to have a header, right? Okay. So we want to have a header with an image. So I'm going to add the one column stack. Okay. And we want a background image to this, right? So let's start off with that. So I'm going to have a background image. Let's add here the Golden Gate Bridge. Why not? Beautiful picture. Okay. Now, by default, when you tile this image, I didn't again verify that this image is all optimized and everything. This is just like a default placeholder image that I use everywhere. Make sure you optimize these images before you add them to your Rapweaver projects, blah, 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 blah. Check out our live streams and podcasts and all kinds of cool resources we've done on how to optimize images. Okay, back to the televised program. So image tiling. We want to turn that off because we don't want it to tile. And then we want the image size to be fill because we want it to fill our screen. Okay, cool. So we're close. Now, but if we preview this, we'll notice that, well, Joe, there's nothing on the page. Well, that's because our one column doesn't have any content, right? So let's go ahead, and what we're gonna do is we're gonna add another one column inside of that. And the reason we're gonna, let me show you a little bit why that is. And then inside there, we're just gonna add a header because that's what we need. We want this to be a header. And this particular header, I want it to be, let's make it an H1 and let's center it. Why not? Okay. And the styles, if you notice, it's kind of black. Obviously black on that on an image isn't great. So we're going to set this to the alternate style, which makes it white, a little bit more readable. And we wanted to add an overlay between the image and our header. So what I'm going to do is that's what this one column that I added it for. So here I'm going to add a color, and I'm going to set that color to be black. Black, and maybe like, I don't know, like 75% or something like 80. How about 80%? Do 70%. Okay. So here we got 70% black with our header, and behind that is an image. Cool. Let's preview that. Okay, well, we're there, but it's really tiny, right? So what can we do there? We obviously want our banner to be a little taller. So what can we do? So what we're gonna do is we want to make that taller. So one thing we could do, and this is what Gino first did, right? Is he went to the one column, the outer one column that contains the background image, right? And what he did was he was like, okay, I know I can add padding. So I'm going to add like, I don't know, like 10 rem in there, something like that. Okay, well, that could be possible. Let's go ahead and preview that. Well, maybe if that's the look you're going for, cool, right? Because that adds padding between the one column and the inner one column. So right here we have the outer one column, we'll just call that outer from now on, and the inside one we'll call inner. So the outer has a padding that, that is an invisible padding between the outside of the outer and the outside of the inner. Does that make sense? Am I confusing you? Okay. So anyway, so I added padding between the one columns. But what if we wanted this overlay to fill the entire image? Well, easy. So instead of adding the padding to this one column, the outer one, set that back to 0. We're going to set the padding on this one. Cool. Let's check that out. Voila. So, okay. So that helps us with the padding, and we see that it stretches the entire content. Cool. Next issue is, but Joe, look over on the side. I have this funky stuff over here. What's going on with that? Like there's this gutter. It's a gutter, right? So, what do we do with that? So if we look at these column stacks and we scroll down, we'll notice that you can turn off gutters. So here we have gutter always, and we can set that to be gutter never, right? And then max width by default. By default, all the contents inside of a one column will always be restricted to the site width, which is the setting you set inside site styles, which by default is 1,000 pixels. Okay. But if you want that to always go full width of your site, you can set that to be full width. Okay. And so what I'm going to do that, I'm going to set the gutter to be never, and I'm going to set the max width to be site width, or I'm sorry, full width on both of those. And if you notice, that gutter was gone. And if we preview this page, voila. 100% all done with the default foundation stacks. Now, because this is a background image, right, it is kind of cropped. Well, it's not really cropped, but depending on the, here, let's preview in a browser. Right, depending on your browser window, like you'll notice as it gets down to mobile, you see more of the image because the way that the image is scaled by the browser, it fills that space. Okay, so really, really cool. That kind of gets us what we want. I think it looks decent on mobile as well as on desktop, right? So it looks pretty nice. Now, if we go back into these settings, if you go into where we had the padding here, if you go to detailed padding, we could do a little bit more, like maybe shrink and expand it a little bit more based on responsiveness, right? So if we set the vertical unit to be percentage, okay, so let's say we do like 25%, maybe we'll try 25%. So basically the vertical padding is going to be 25% of the browser width, right? So what that means is as the browser gets bigger, so does the banner, right? So if that's something you want, you can do that. Because by default, when I just set it to rem unit, that basically meant it was the same size no matter what, but the background image still kind of scaled. So depending on how you want things to happen, you can do all of this with the default stacks that ship with Foundation. And actually, to be honest, you could do a lot of this. You can't do the responsive padding thing. But even with the one column stacks that ship with stacks, you can do this same exact thing. You're stuck with pixels there instead of rem and percentages that we have in Foundation. But this entire thing is possible with out of the box stacks. And if you're using them with Foundation, this means 0 extra CSS, 0 extra JavaScript, right? This is purely HTML on the page. That's it. Super fast. And hopefully it gets the job done for you. So anyway, that was really cool. What we're going to do now is we have Commander Joy here. And let me bring her in really quick. Let me see. Jody, you there? Oh, okay. Excellent. Let me get you on here. so this was totally last minute. And thank you very much for coming, Jody. And she was like, wait, you're asking me to come on live? Like what? This was like an hour ago, because it was only a couple hours ago that Isaiah couldn't join me. So I put a post on Weaver Space, and Jody was like, hey, I got some cool ideas. And I was like, here, join me here. And Jody, I kind of swindled her in. She probably doesn't even know why she's here, but I appreciate you coming. I do have to say, so Jody is a regular on our Friday Hangouts, and she is a smart cookie. And she's actually speaking at the conference this year as well, which we're working with her on that. So I'm really excited about that, and I'm glad that she's here. Hopefully you don't take offense to this, Jody, but I consider you like a professional beginner. Okay, and why I say that is like you're really good, and but you still have that mindset of someone who either you can really relate to someone who's just beginning, right? And a lot of times for someone like, it's even hard for me sometimes where, I've been doing something for 10 years, been doing this Rap Weaver stuff for like 10 years. And, even I'm like, sometimes, oh, I forgot to talk about that stuff. Cause I think it's just something that's ingrained in my brain that I don't even think about it anymore. So it really is a talent to think about things that, the true novice thinks about. And Jody's very, very, very good at that. So congratulations on you, Jody. Thank you for joining me as well on such short notice. I appreciate it. So I had some ideas, Jody. I wanted to kind of talk about Stacks 4 or even questions in general. And I know you had a couple things. I'd love to chat with you about those. What sort of question would you like me to talk about or chat about?
Well, I think that libraries, in terms of a workflow, taking another look at libraries, Isaiah did go over it in one of his videos, which was nice. But he just kind of shows you what the libraries are and what abilities have been added to them at this point.
Mm-hmm.
But what might be very useful for beginners and pros is, well, what's a way to look at how you can organize your libraries for the best workflow for your situation? What really are tags? I don't quite understand what tags are. Author,
Okay.
yes. I mean, if I want, 1LD stacks or Joe Workman stacks, I can organize it that way. But let's say I was looking for stacks to show audio content. How could I quickly switch? And how would I look for something like that? Because the name of the stack doesn't always reflect its function.
Yes.
So different ways of doing that so that people could customize it.
Sure. Cool. Let's go ahead and here, let me share my screen. And so you're talking about when you say the library, you're talking about the Stacks library, right? So
Stacks library, yes.
Yeah. So, all the new stuff, because we can kind of rename our icons now, and we can actually provide our own custom icons. So yeah, really exciting stuff. So yeah, let's dive into that. Let me go ahead and share my screen for you so you can see everything that everyone else is seeing as well. Oop. Okay. Can you still see my screen, Jody?
Yes.
Excellent. Okay. Cool. Let me just make sure your audio is still going through really quick here. Yes. Okay, cool. So everyone, what Jody's asking about is the new Stacks, or the updated Stacks library here inside Stacks 4. And there's quite a new set of features. And first off, there's still partials. There are new things called externals. I'm not going to go into exactly what they are right now. And then there's templates. Okay. So those are two new things in the library, but there's also some really great new things that we can do in the library. And people have wanted this for a long time. First, if you didn't know, you can drag out this little library thing. Actually, to get a little bit more space, I'm going to close the Stacks page inspector there. Okay. So you can enlarge your Stacks library if you want to see the titles of all of your things, right? And obviously you can also drag out your Stacks library. So that's something that you can do. And there's actually other ways. A lot of people don't know this as well. But at the bottom of your stacks library, you can click on this button, and what it does is it opens up the library in an external window, okay, which is kind of cool. And you should be able to.
Can you float that anywhere, or is it just push it to the side?
Oh, you used to be able to float it. Oh no, there's another window. There's another button that allows it to be a completely floating window. Okay, which is definitely interesting and convenient. I don't really use it that much. Maybe I should give it a shot, but I tend to just use it docked. But yeah, so you can have it as a completely external window as well, which is interesting. Okay, I'm gonna redock that just for fun. A couple other basics of the library is icon size. So I've been experimenting for years. I've been using just this large, right? Just because I like the grid of icons, and I could see exactly what stack I want if as long as I know what the icon is, and there obviously the names below it. But I've been experimenting with giving a shot with medium, which allows you to see a little bit more, right? And it kind of gives you two columns. And depending on how wide you make this, it'll go multiple columns. But I think this view is decent if it's in a 2-column layout, where you can kind of see a little bit more stacks, right? And then there's small as well, which actually is very very tiny. Even for my eyes, I think that's pretty small. But some people might like that. So anyway, so you can change around the icon size. Now, Jody, you asked about arranging stacks, and you can arrange by author, by tag, or by title, right? So by default, I'm pretty sure by default they're organized. Let me change this back to medium because I like that. Okay. By default, I'm pretty sure that stacks are sorted by tag. Okay. And what is a tag? Well, you as the end user don't get really access to this, but me as a developer, I get to assign tags to my stacks. Okay. And so if we look at foundation is a good example, we'll see that these groups I have font pro, foundation dash buttons and navigation, foundation dash content, dynamic layout, and foundation forms, right? Those groups are defined as a tag in the stack. Now, only I as the developer can tag my stacks. Okay. Isaiah hasn't yet given the users the ability to tag your own stacks. Okay. Or to tag stacks from a third-party developer. So that is what a tag is. Now, actually, in every single one of my stacks, I actually have probably, a half dozen tags. And while the first tag is only used for the group, basically the other tags are used for search. So like they're included as a search term for that stack. So that's what tags are. Yeah. I can understand how. Actually, I'll show it how tags are useful for you and how you can use them in a little bit when we get into partials and externals and templates. But hopefully, does that kind of answer your question a little bit on what tags are, Jody?
Yes, I think so. So in your workflow, you've got the foundation stacks organized by their function. You've got it by forms. You have,
Mm-hmm.
I guess, you have
the foundation stacks, even on your system, if you now I created a custom group for just foundation as well as font pro, so that I just kind of go to this group whenever I need foundation, and a lot of times when I'm using foundation, I'm also using font pro. So that's why I have font pro in here as well, and I might start adding a few other like stacks I use on every site, sort of thing.
What about if you were just looking for layout? Would that include the 1-column, 2-column, 3-column, not only from foundation, but the basic built-in rapid weaver stacks?
Mm-hmm.
Okay,
Yep.
so it's up to the developer. Is there a standard list of tags that the developers work with so that it's standardized across the RW development community?
That would be really nice. It was proposed a while ago, but yeah, I think there's just too many cooks in the kitchen and everyone wants to do their own stuff. So, um, yeah, as of right now, there isn't a standardized set of groups that a stack would fall into, like a category. Maybe that's something we can suggest to Isaiah of, hey, can we add a category feature that maybe Isaiah defines the list of categories, you know, and then we have to define where our stack fits in those categories. Um, but right now there is no standardized set of tags or groups that any stack developer uses. I try to do that. So if we go to all stacks, for example, and we scroll down, so like I created a blog group. So if you notice there's this is under blog, and there's a lot of my stacks here, right? These are all my stacks, and I've intentionally tagged all of those to be in the blog group, right? Like here is I created something called content, right? Which is either text, or it's a CSV table, or it's a button, right? So here I've added all of these stacks into a content group. But if you notice, like here I have dynamic layout, which has sliders and stuff like that. So I've kind of created a tagging system for my stuff, but really
Mm.
no one's going to use the tags that I use. They come up with their own thing, right? And
This is
some developers just use their name, right? So like here, Dobox, I have a couple Dobox stacks here. They are listed as Dobox, right? So yeah, I try to organize things for you, but it doesn't really work if only I do it, right? So yeah,
That's true. I think the situation a lot of people, especially beginners, face is that they may have collected a bunch of stacks, and they kind of forget and lose track of what stacks they have that does what function.
yeah.
So that you end up relying on the same stack that you used for your last project without exploring the potential of another stack that may have
Mm-hmm.
the same
Fair enough.
function.
Fair enough. So yeah, I don't have a great answer for you there. But it's something I'll bring it up with Isaiah and see what his ideas are. I think it's a good one. Okay. Next up, so that kind of deals with tags. Obviously, by author, that's pretty apparent, right? So that's the stack author or untitled if a author isn't defined. So we have Big White Duck, 1LD, and Joe Workman and Elixir and all that stuff. So that's pretty apparent. And then the last one was the last one. By title. I don't find that useful at all. Like organizing my title. But I guess if nothing's really in a standardized group set anyway, which would potentially be tag, then I guess it doesn't really matter anyway. But yeah, I don't see sorting by title being all that convenient. Okay, so let's go by tag again. And what are these? Let's see. Sort by sort built-in stacks first. That is done by default. So all the built-in stacks are up at top. And then ignore author tags, and you can reverse sort as well. Okay. Okay. Here's another actually a thing that happens all the time, right? So a lot of times people will accidentally click this show hidden stacks, and what you'll notice is, I guess it's kind of hard because I have so many stacks here, but there are going to be a gazillion stacks that then are now displayed. Like here's a ton of stacks that don't have icons. Most of these hidden stacks don't have icons, and it confuses people because they're like, what are all these stacks? I have no clue what they are. For example, here's Font Pro, and by default, almost all of these stacks aren't shown in the stacks library, and that's because a lot of these hidden stacks are child stacks. So they're the stacks that you add to a page by clicking on those little blue plus buttons, right? But if you show hidden stacks, you can potentially drag and drop them onto the page, right? So that could be convenient if you know exactly what you want, but it will show a lot of stacks that you might not want to see in your library, and it could confuse you a little bit more. So I do personally recommend that you turn off show hidden stacks, because all the stacks that are set to hidden, they're meant to be hidden for a reason. And yeah, Isaiah had to. I understand why he added that control, but yeah, I recommend that you hide your hidden stacks and then you just add them via the little blue plus button. That's my opinion. Any questions on that, Jody?
No, I don't think so. You have a display by tag. Now,
Yes.
those tags are drawing, for example, content, animate, or animation. Those are drawn by the tags that the authors, the developers have assigned to
Correct.
that stack.
That is
Okay.
correct. So I have here I think I have that. I think my stacks are compiled, but there, let's find a stack that like this particular one probably isn't compiled, and I probably shouldn't be showing you guys this, but whatever. So so here is this stack, this IV stack. I think this is an Elixir stack. I don't remember. I forget who did IV. But inside there's a plist file. Let me just open up plist edit, bro. And just to kind of give you guys an example, inside there is a plist file, and I'm going to open it. I just opened it, and inside here, as you see here, there is an array of tags. Has accordion, responsive, and organize. And if you look here, this IV stack is inside the group accordion. Well, that's because the first tag in the list here, which me as the developer sets, is set to be accordion. So that's the reason why. So savvy users, you could go and modify those yourself. In some stacks, my stacks you can't. They're all compiled. But I don't recommend doing that, because if an update ever gets shipped to a stack, all of that work that you did for tags will be gone, because it'll get reset to whatever the developer sets it at. Right. So, but that did show an example of exactly how you would do it, or how us as a developer does it. Okay. I guess while we're on the topic of tags, I will show you how they can benefit you, and how you have some control over things. Okay. So, with partials, externals, and templates, these are all things that you as the end user actually create, right? So let's say I wanted to, this little layout that I just created 10 minutes ago or 15 minutes ago, whenever it was. Let's say I wanted to save this as a partial. Okay. So I'm going to go ahead and we're going to click the partial button. And if we open up the inspector over here, so over here, you can give your partial a name, right? So, the partial is, we'll call this hero banner. Cool for live stream author. So here's an author field, right? You can put in, I don't know, I'll just put in live stream just for fun, just so it doesn't show up in Joe Workman, because that's me, right? But you can repurpose this author field, and here's tags. Ooh. So let's call this, let's call this, let's put this banner and header. Okay, because it's kind of like the head of your website, right? So I've now called this hero banner. I gave it a subtitle. The author's live stream tags are banner and header. Okay, so let's go ahead and back. Now let's go ahead and look at our partial thing. And if you look here inside partials, you'll see that this hero banner is now inside of the group called banner. And that's because I tagged it that way. Okay. And if we do arrange by author, well, guess what? This hero banner is now under live stream. So, because we can add these to partials, externals, and templates, it gives you, the end user, the ability to find and categorize your partials, externals, and templates in a new way, right? Because obviously you're probably not going to put your name for author on everything. So you can use that as like a secondary sort tool potentially, right? So, you can abuse author and that first tag field. And if I search for header in here, hero banner came up because header was that second tag that I put in.
That's very useful because, for example, some of the demos that Tav has on his big white ducks sections box, there's some animation effects in there. And if you've taken the time to design something that is a fairly complex sections box with animation effects, you could tag it, according to your workflow. Now, the danger, as Isaiah points out, is if you create a template designed like that, that's global. Yeah. And if you change it in one project for one project's use, it's going to change it retroactively in all your previous projects. So the key, I think, to keeping disaster at bay is you have to, what was the technique that he used? It's not that he changed it's like partials, you break it up. So you would have to, for that project, you could bring that template in, design just the way you wanted it, and then make sure that you change it so you break it out so it doesn't affect how it's been used in other projects. Would that be the proper strategy?
Yes. So, we've talked about this on Hangouts, and there was a recent string on one of the forums that talks about one strategy to potentially improve performance of editing your pages is to leverage partials, templates, and externals a little bit better, right? So for instance, let's say that in this page, especially if you're using a lot of complex stacks, like you were saying, and another use case for this is, let me go ahead and add in, let me just build out something really quick. I'm going to add a 5-column, or let's use foundation stack. I'm going to add a 5-column, right, to there, and then inside there, I'm going to create something completely absurd here. So we're going to add a 2-column. Let's just add some text into it. Okay. And I'm going to put this 2-column inside there, right? And I'm going to replicate this bad boy around here. Okay. This just shows, a lot of times we have stacks inside stacks inside stacks, right? And that is illegible, right? You can't. It's hard to edit this. Now, luckily, Isaiah's added stuff that at least text boxes now will pop open and you can still see the thing. So that's a lot better in Stacks 4, right? But editing a layout, because a lot of times you can't even see, let's say even in here, let's go ahead and add like another a 1-column in there and then a text column in there, right? I mean, that is now, you have no clue what that is, right? But this is common. People, you tend to go that deep sometimes, right? So what if we were to do this, right? A lot of people were like, what if I just wanted to edit this little area on its own? Well, we already have that. It's called a partial, right? So what I can do is if I partial this, I'm going to take this 2-column right here and I'm going to create a partial out of it. And look, magically, I can see all of its contents super easy, right? And I can go ahead and I can name it whatever I want. And even if I only use this partial in that one spot and I don't use it anywhere else on my site, it doesn't matter. Okay? Because if I ever need to edit this particular area again, and because it's too hard to see all the stacks, I just double click on it and there it goes. It expands inside. So even if I don't use this, and maybe you can come up with some sort of naming scheme where it's like, home page, about me or something like that, right? Where maybe this is a thing where you talk about yourself or something like that, right? So name it so that when you see this partial inside the library, and maybe the tags are homepage or something like that, because it's a partial that you only use on the homepage or something like that, right? Right. But yeah, that is a great solution. And what's also awesome is that it will make, if you break your pages into partials, it'll make editing a lot faster, edit mode here, because partials are kind of like stored in their little encapsulated world. So if you make a change to them, it doesn't reflect the entire page, right? So it makes things a little bit faster inside edit mode. So this is a really great strategy to use partials. Does that kind of answer your question? I think that tackled your question.
Yes, and technically it is possible. Let's say you're opening a new project and you remember a partial that you had created in another project. You're able to copy and paste, which can
Correct.
get, so you
Yes.
can copy a partial from project A, dump it into project B, rename it, and you are not affecting, when you make the changes in project B, you are not retroactively affecting anything in project A. So you're safe that way.
Correct. So
The
if I
question
copy
really
this
had
partial
more.
that I just made here, okay, I can go into here and paste it, right? And
Right.
now this partial is completely different than this partial in the project, right? I can rename it. I can do whatever I want because partials are specific to a project. However, if I were to make this a template or an external, then that would be the same across all my projects.
Right.
Right.
The strategy for a template or an external, if you are to use that you create it in project A, you want to use it in project B, and you're going to change it in project B. You need to deconstruct it. Is that correct?
That is correct. Now for external, you might not want to deconstruct it. It'll be interesting to see over time how people the strategies for externals. I think the strategy for templates are very apparent. For example, let's say I'm going to unpack this partial for this header. Okay. Let's say I wanted to save this as a template because let's say I don't want to remember how to build this banner every single time, right? So what I can do is I'm going to save this as a template. Okay, so I'm going to click the template button, and I'm going to call this hero banner. Okay, and let's go back. So now if I start a new project, okay, and I don't want to remember how to build a hero banner because I've already done it, right? I go to my templates. I find, oh, this is I think a bug where templates don't show up in an existing project that you just create. Hold on one second. Can I refresh? Oh no, that's the update button. I think if I open up a new project, it'll do it.
You mean if you're already working in a project?
Yeah. If I have two projects open, and then I create a template in one project, yeah, I'm not seeing it there.
Oh, you have to save. You have to save and close. I think it may have to do with saving.
Oh, I didn't save this project. Maybe that's it.
Yeah.
Where didn't I call it hero? Yeah, I called it hero banner. Oh, there it is. Wait, that's not showing up there. Interesting. Here, let's restart Rapid Word really quick. I'll have to pop that message over to Isaiah. We're just gonna let's open up Sandbox since that was the one I was using. So anyway, so what I'm going to do here is hopefully when I open this up and I'm going to create a new project, I can drag that hero banner template onto the page, and then I'm going to unpack it. And then at that point, I can change it all I want, tweak the background image and the heading and stuff like that. But I don't need to do all the work to remember how in the world did I build that hero banner, right? So here's that hero banner template. Let's just create a new project really quick. Add a stacks page. And let's go to my templates. And I should have, here's the hero banner. So I'm going to add that to the page. Oh, it needs site styles. Okay, let me just add that site styles to the page really quick. Okay. So there we go. I have my hero banner, but with templates, you can't edit them, right? And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to unpack it. So I'm going to click that. And now I have all those stacks on my page, and I can tweak them all I want from now on. But the templates they're easy for you to create like reusable things that you build. right? So if you don't want to remember how to build something, you've already done it. Maybe you want to use it in another project. People are going to really be starting to create a collection of templates. And what's awesome is me as a developer, I can ship templates in my stacks as well. So let's say like I want to give you an example on an example layout that you can use as a starting point. I can now ship that as a template. You just drag that template onto the page, unpack it, and you're done, right? So I'm really excited for templates because I think they're going to give a much quicker way for us to build out sites, and for me as a developer to give you more utilities to speed up your web design, because you could just have all these templated layouts and templated forms and all that stuff. Like for example, foundation forms, right? Really powerful form stack. But sometimes people are like, how do I create just a simple contact us form? Well, it's super easy. I'm going to create a template that is a contact us form that have name, email address, comments, and you just plop that on the page and boom, you're done. You can unpack it, change obviously your email settings to be what you need, and you're off to the races. So templates are going to be a really, really great thing for us in the future. Externals are basically editable versions of templates, sort of. They're basically global partials, and it'll be interesting to see how users really use those going forward.
Yeah, I'm a little unclear as to the difference. Now, from this, I understand templates a lot more, and I think it's critical in any of the instructions that as soon as you put a template on the page, your next step is to unpack it.
Yep.
Or without knowing, you could have altered something that you did not want to alter. So that's a critical step.
Yeah.
How does this really differ from externals?
Okay, so an external is a partial. Okay, I'm not sure. I didn't name these externals very well when I was playing around. Let's see what this external is. Oh, has a bunch of stacks I don't have installed. What's this external? Let me find. Oh yeah, here's external 13. Okay, it looks like it's just a 2-column layout. Okay, so here I currently have 2 projects open. That was external 13. Let me go ahead and delete this. It's here. So I'm going to add external 13. So right now, both my projects have external 13 on the page. Horrible name, but I was just playing around, right? Okay, I'm going to go ahead and modify this external. And let's just call this, or actually here, I'm going to copy this. I'm going to put column 2. And I'm going to save that. So there, now on this page, I have column 1, column 2, and column 3. Okay, and that's my external. Obviously, that's a very simple one. But now if we go back to this project, we'll see that it also changed there.
So it's behaving like a template that you have not unpacked?
It's kind of a mixture of a template and a partial, because I can edit this in templates. You cannot edit, right? If I, here, let me drag that hero banner template back out here. Templates are read-only. I cannot edit this. You can't edit a template. It's going to tell you templates are not editable, as this error says. Do you want to convert it to an external, partial, or just don't edit? Right? You cannot edit a template.
I see. So the only way to edit it is to unpack it. When you unpack it, does it automatically then make it a external, technically?
Nope. It's the same as if you added all of those stacks to the page. Okay. Now if you wanted, if we looked at when I double clicked this, it says, do you want to convert it to a partial or convert it to an external? I can convert it to a partial, which then allows me to edit it. And then this is now a partial inside of my project. And the partial is only inside this one project file. Mm-hmm. However, if I converted it to an external, then it would be accessible in all of my project files. Okay. And externals are, while they're cool and interesting, they can be dangerous, because if we saw here, I modified this external in this project file. Let's go ahead and say this is now, or I'm going to just do column A, column B, column C. Okay. And maybe that's what I want for this project, right? But you have to be careful, because this is an external. It modifies it in your other projects that use this external as well. So what if in this project I didn't want it to be column A, B, or C? Uh-oh.
Mm-hmm.
But it changed both. So if I were to republish this page right now, it would change from column 1, 2, 3 to column A, B, C. But what if I didn't want that in this project? That's where we have to be knowledgeable on when to use external and when not to. Again, I think they're going to be very powerful, but the exact use cases are going to be interesting.
Yes, I have a feeling this is going to open the door to a whole lot of unwarranted problems that people just don't realize they're going to get into. So the necessity of very clear explanation and a use case would be very valuable.
Yeah, totally.
Written, from a beginner's standpoint, not the developer's standpoint. Yeah. This really
a question was asked in the chat box. Why would I use a template instead of an external? Well, the perfect example is what I gave here. So like I had this template for banner hero, right? Yes, I created this in 5 minutes, but what if I don't want to have to recreate it again, or I don't want to remember how I did it, right? Let's say this is an example of, Paul Russum or Tav creates some amazing little animation, cool layout thing. You're not going to remember how the heck to do that again in the future, but you can save it as a template, and then you can easily access that from any of your projects in the future, right? So that's where templates are going to get a lot of use. Now, if you wanted to edit a template, like let's say you wanted to modify your hero banner template, essentially what you're going to do is you're going to unpack it. You're going to create a new template, so I just unpacked it, and now I'm going to create a new template right now, and then you can call it, new hero banner or something like that, and then you have to go and just delete the other template from the library. So let's call this new hero banner, okay?
Joe, I have a question on that step. Why
Yes.
would you have to create, if you're going to unpack the template and use it in a project and you're going to make changes, why bother making it a template in the first place in this new project?
Well, let's say you wanted to update your banner template because you added some new fancy stuff. Maybe you added the responsive padding, and you want to add that to your template. So in any future projects that you want to use this banner, it has the new settings, right? So you're creating a new template. So right now inside in the template library, I now have hero banner and new hero banner. Oh, there, new hero banner, right? But I don't necessarily need hero banner anymore, right? So I could delete that. Or I can keep both if I wanted old hero banner and new hero banner. But
right.
Yeah.
But,
So it's just a way, if I want to, there's no possible way ever to edit a template. But once you've created it, it is read only from that point forward. But you can easily unpack it and resave it, unpack it, make some changes and create a new template based on your new layout.
You would have to make a new one. Otherwise, the changes that you make would be reflected back in the old one. If you didn't.
No, you can't, because the old ones is right. Read only. You cannot make changes to it, period. Never.
That's where the external would be the different one,
correct.
Right?
That is correct.
Okay. Did that answer the person's question?
Hopefully. Yeah, I skipped a bunch of the stuff here actually as well. So, in the library, kind of getting back to the library, we went off on some big tangents here. But as you see here, from built-in up, these are kind of like the baked-in default groups. But I've created a few myself. So we have Foundation. I just used the little blocks. CMS, I have a little Flame. Email, obviously these are all my email stacks. SEO Helper. And then, here's some Forbidden Foundation 2 stacks. So you can create your own groups. And really interesting thread right now on Weaverspace in terms of strategy for how do we create groups. Now, I don't color these, but you can color them, right? You can make them all kinds of crazy colors. I just think having, I don't know, myself personally, like having everything a different color just kind of whacks my brain out a little bit. So I just been keeping them, all gray, but you can make them different colors, and you cannot reorder them right now. That is something, it's on the feature list. I think he has it on the list for 4.1. So that will come, and I cannot wait because I definitely want to reorder my groups. That will definitely be a very nice thing. If you're wondering how, so here's the icons, and this is a list of icons. I agree, and Isaiah agrees it's not the best UI for this. It would be great if you could actually see the icon and pick it or something like that. That would be really nice. But maybe in the future. But for right now, you have to know the name. And you're wondering, Joe, how do I know what the name is? So how can we figure out what these icons are, right? If you're familiar, these are all Font Awesome 4 icons. So all of these are Font Awesome 4. And so if we just go to fontawesome.com/v4.7.0, there we go. So here, let me teach you how to get to it here. I could put this URL in the chat room really quick, but if you go to fontawesome.com, that is obviously Font Awesome 5. And we're running low on time. I'm not going to be able to get into the 5 versus 4 thing today. Major differences between 5 and 4, by the way. That's why you don't see a lot of Font Awesome 5 full support yet in Rapid Weaver. It's because it's a completely different animal than Font Awesome 4. So if you scroll like all the way down to the bottom of the Font Awesome page, you can go to old 4.7. So if you click on that, that takes you to the Font Awesome 4 page. And here you can go to the icons. And these are all of the icons that are available inside this dropdown. So we have, I think it was like 600 icons here, 675 icons that you can put inside there. Right. And the names of them, obviously, like this one is print. So if I wanted this particular icon, I would find the print icon, the print over here, or you can just type, right? So if you know the name, just start print, type in print, right? So now my CMS is now a print icon, right? Let's put it back to fire. Thank you very much. So yes, so these are all Font Awesome icons, and they are all using the Font Awesome 5 names. Or I'm sorry, Font Awesome 4 names. Some of these icons, most of these icons also still exist in Font Awesome 5. Some of them look a little bit different. For example, the fire icon in Font Awesome 4 looks like this. In Font Awesome 5, it actually looks exactly like the total CMS icon. It's pretty crazy. Like it is like an exact replica of the total CMS icon, which is kind of cool because it's like total CMS has its own icon now. Here, I'll show you. Watch this thing. Fire. Boom. Like, isn't that the total CMS icon or what? Like,
is that where you got it from?
No, I before Font Awesome 5 released, I mean, Total CMS has been out for 5 years. So, yeah, they just decided to make their fire icon look like this, which amazingly looks exactly like the Total CMS icon. Obviously, it's simpler, right? But I'm not complaining because it's like Font Awesome added a fire icon for me. So, anyway, that was a fun tangent. So any questions on how these groups? Oh, I should say I've been thinking about that since it was asked on the Weaver Space community about like what can we use and what can we do, like how can we use things, and I was thinking like, so how earlier, Jody, you were saying like there isn't a standard set of categories for us developers to put all of our stacks in, right? But with these new groups now, there's nothing stopping you as the user of saying, here's all my image stacks. Here's all my gallery stacks. Here's all my membership stacks, which could be site lock or page safe, things like you're locking down, right?
Right.
So you can create your own categories of groups now, where you can organize things the way your brain works. Right?
And that would be by using tags?
No, that would just be by simply here. Let's create. I would create a new group. So let's just call this
Animation
images.
Oh, okay.
Right, and we'll use photo. Okay, and here we'll leave it. We'll leave the color the same. Okay, now I have a group called images. Right, so what I could do is in my stacks library, maybe I can just search for image, right? And, I can, let's say it's all of these, right? I can select all of these, right click, add to group images. Now from whenever I go to images, there's all of my stacks,
Yeah, very
right?
handy.
So, you can create your own layout group, add all the layout stacks that you want into it, create an images group. Maybe, I don't know if you want to differentiate gallery versus image. You could do that, right? Sliders is another probably popular one.
Yeah.
I tend to call that dynamic layout. That's what I've been doing because that includes like tabs and accordions as well. Um, you know, so just try to create. You can start creating your own groups to help you find your stacks. Now, another thing is in Stacks 4, it's a lot easier now to favorite a stack. So in Stacks 3, you had to open up this little inspector and then you had to hit the heart. Okay. But now you can actually, select as many stacks as you want, right click and say favorite. So you can select multiple stacks. Let's say I have, Grummage. I want all of these. I can just right click and favorite those. And what that does is that dynamically adds it to this favorites group. Okay. So if you have, obviously I think there's a trade-off. You don't want the favorites group to be too many stacks, right? Because then it becomes just as hard to find things, right? So really, check what stacks you want to be in the favorite group and favorite them, and then they'll magically be there. And it's really easy to add them in there. To remove them, obviously you just right click and you can unfavorite them and they'll be removed from the favorites group as well. So yeah, the favorites group is really good. I tend to put, stacks I've recently released in there that I'm probably using a lot for support and things of that nature. I use those. I add those to the favorites group. So yeah. Cool. Any other questions, Jody?
Not from my standpoint. Otherwise, we're going to run over time.
Yeah.
Is there any
Yep. I was just about to see if we were going to wrap up. So
any other questions in the chat?
here, let's look through this. Before Rapid Weaver, I use server-side includes to deliver conditional content that was persistent cookies across sessions. How do I accomplish this in Rapid Weaver? So you want to conditionally include content inside your Rapid Weaver project from the server. Well, luckily I have a few stacks that do that. That's definitely not kind of beginner level stuff. That is a little bit more advanced. Have a look at Agent. Have a look at Portal, and TARDIS. Those three are really, really good for conditionally including content on the page from the server. So yeah, take a look at those, Danny. And I know Danny, you tend to join the Hangouts. Maybe we can talk that a little bit more in depth on the Hangout on Friday if you join. I'd be happy to. But I'm pretty sure one of those three stacks will probably serve your purpose there. Keep it short and simple for film editing. If it doesn't give the audience, okay. I think we covered everyone in the chat. You were killing it, Jody. You're awesome.
Well, I try and think. I had to slog through a lot of this. I know other people have to as well. And I try to be the bridge between those who really know what they're doing and those who are just starting out. And you put yourself in that position. And that way you cover a lot of material that people might not even know, even if they've advanced, because there's so much to know.
Yes, 100%. So
good job, Joe. Right on the fly. Good job.
Thank you very much, Jody. I appreciate you joining. Will I see you on Friday?
Probably.
Sweet. Okay. We'll talk to you on Friday.
Take care.
Take care. Bye. Cool. Well, thank you very much. I appreciate Jody for coming out today. Totally last minute. She had no clue. She was like, what am I doing? I threw her a Zoom link and she hopped on. So thanks for being a good sport. As I said, she really is a professional beginner. I think the way she thinks is awesome. I need to improve and think more like that as well. So hopefully you guys enjoyed today. We totally went into some rabbit holes that I think were really, really cool. And I'm glad that we did that. And I hope that cleared a few, questions and concerns that you might have had, from a Stacks 4 standpoint, or, using, that basic layout that I did in the beginning, how to leverage, the stacks that you already have, probably the basic stacks that you already have, to really improve edit mode performance, using partials to kind of, for complex layouts to kind of segment it out into different parts and different sections. Really, really powerful stuff we went through today. I'm really happy with today. Next week, Isaiah promises he will be here. So we will have Isaiah here. If you want to learn something about Isaiah, shoot in some questions into support. I'll make sure I ask him while we're live. I plan on maybe getting a little backstory from Isaiah, learn a little bit more about him, how Stacks came about, how Stacks 4, what his vision is for the future, and some maybe we'll get some ideas about where things are going in the next 6 to 12 months or so. So really excited about that. Thank you very much for joining, everybody. I hope you enjoyed today. We'll see you next week. And if you want to maybe a small little glimpse of Foundation 2, there's not too much I plan on showing, but this Friday at the Hangouts, I'll probably show a little bit. So hopefully we'll see you then. And we'll definitely see you next week on the Hangout with Isaiah. Take care, guys. Bye.